The wheelbarrow will just roll by itself, and Donald won't have to do any work. Last picture, top row. Donald has piled the dirt high on the wheelbarrow, and Huey says,
My, that's an awful big load.
and Donald replies,
Why not? I'll have old man Gravity working for me on the return trip.
and then he starts down the hill for home. The load is so heavy that the wheelbarrow starts to roll rather fast, and Huey yells, first picture, bottom row.
Hey, don't go so fast.
But the wheelbarrow goes even faster, and Huey yells.
Hey, wait up.
Donald, who can't hold the heavy load back, answers.
I can't. I'll meet you at home.
Faster and faster down the hill, the wheelbarrow goes. They come to a turn, and Huey yells.
Hey, we turn here.
Donald yells.
I can't.
And over the curb it goes. Bumps across the street through a fence. And then, all of a sudden, Huey yells.
Uncle Donald, let go.
And there's a big splash. On last picture, Donald and Huey look at the wheelbarrow, which is in the river. And Donald feels just like this.
Oh, poor Donald. It's too bad that happened, but I just can't help but laugh. It was so funny.
Yes, maybe next time Donald won't try to take such a heavy load.
Yes, and maybe then he'll be able to get home with what he starts out with.
Yes.
Oh, look, underneath Donald Duck, there's Roy Rogers, my favorite cowboy. This is exciting.
Oh, you bet it is, because Roy has discovered the old hermit who has been setting fire to the telegraph poles.
The man is in a cave, and he shot at Roy, but he missed him.
And now he's waiting to take another shot at Roy, and this time he doesn't intend to miss.
Well, please read quick. I want to see what happens.
Very well. Here we go with Roy Rogers, king of the cowboys. Hi-yip-hi-yo. Now here we go with Roy and Trigger. Hi-yip-hi-yo. The old hermit watches the rock that Roy ducked behind. But what the hermit doesn't know is that Roy has backtracked and slipped around and come up on the rock above the cave. As Roy gets on the rock above, he hears the hermit mutter,
Yeah, come out from behind that rock, you sneaking telegraph spy. I won't miss again.
Quick as a flash, Roy flips his rope. And in a second, the hermit finds his arms pinned to his waist. He yells, Hey, what? He looks up to see Roy holding the rope tight. Roy says, Sorry, Pop, but you and that blunderbuss are plumb dangerous. Quickly, Roy scrambles down and has the old hermit tied up so he can do no more harm. Then Roy says cheerfully, You want to tell me how you've been starting these fires in the telegraph line, Pop? The hermit replies,
Yeah, you can see for yourself. Look in the cave.
Roy goes into the cave. He finds a strange-looking machine covered with a big tarpaulin. That's a piece of canvas. And the hermit says,
Don't hurt it, mister. I spent years a-building that. She's almost finished.
Roy asks, Almost? Hey, what is it anyway? Last picture, top row. The hermit goes to his old mule Betsy as he answers,
I'll show you how it works. I'm right proud of it. Come on, Betsy.
He leads Betsy outside. The mule pulls the strange contraption out of the cave. Roy says, All right, that's far enough, Pop. No tricks now. The hermit answers,
All right. Just pull the tarp off on her.
So Roy pulls off the tarpaulin, which covers the contraption, and underneath finds a piece of glass 10 feet high and 2 feet thick. Roy exclaims, Hey, a big glass lens. How in thunder does it work? The hermit starts to unhitch the mule from the contraption, saying,
I can't show you now, son. Valley's too wet from rain to catch fire.
Roy, looking at the glass, says, I'm beginning to get the general idea. Suddenly, the hermit exclaims,
Hey, you're free, Betsy. Go get him. Kick him into the middle of next week.
The mule runs at Roy, last picture, and Roy hears Brad shout, Hey, Roy, duck! Roy looks up to see the hind feet of the mule coming toward his head.
Oh, my. I hope that mule doesn't really kick Roy.
I hope not. But next week, we'll find out for sure.
Oh, now could we read the Dagwood and Blondie?
We certainly can if you'll pick up the first page of the second section of Puck the Comic Weekly.
Here it is. Spread out before me.
Very well, here we go with Dagwood and Blondie. Ramafoo, ramafum, zim, zam, zombie. Conjure me music for Dagwood and Blondie. Blondie is crying. Alexander asks Cookie.
Hey, why is Mama crying?
Cookie tells him it's because Dagwood wouldn't let her buy the plaid coat she saw in Hinkle's window. Cookie looks at her mother and says,
Sad, isn't it?
and Alexander feels so sad, he says,
Hey, let's speak to Pop about it.
But when they talk to Dagwood, he folds his arms firmly last picture top row, frowns ferociously, and says, no. And when I say no, I mean it. She can't have the coat. Cookie and Alexander leave the room, and Alexander says, first picture next row,
Gee, I've never seen Pop so hard-hearted.
Meanwhile, Dagwood looks out the window. He has a stern expression on his face, and he says to himself proudly, I can be a man of steel when I want to. I can be cruel and cold with a heart of rock when it's necessary. Then Blondie has a scheme. She bustles around in the kitchen and says,
I'll cook all his favorite dishes for supper. That always wins him over.
So she happily cooks Dagwood's favorite supper, hoping that he'll be so happy about it that he'll buy her the coat. But as he finishes supper, first picture next row, Dagwood pounds the table fiercely and roars, It's a delicious supper, but no coat. Understand? No coat. Dagwood frowns fiercely. And Blondie burst into tears again. And Dagwood suddenly looks very sorry. And he goes out of the room and comes back, last picture of the row, with a box and hands it to Blondie, saying, Stop crying, dear. Here's your coat. I bought it for you yesterday. Blondie exclaims,
Well, then why did you tell me I couldn't have it?
Dagwood answers, first picture bottom row, I was practicing being firm. I knew you wanted the hat that was in the window, too, and, well, I wanted to be firm about it. Blondie says,
Oh, darling, you don't have to worry about that. I bought the hat this morning.
And she puts on the hat and coat. And says to Dagwood, last picture,
You're the sweetest, kindest man in the world.
Dagwood takes one look at the hat he didn't want her to buy, and then a look at the coat which he had to spend so much money for, and he chews his fingernails and moans, Oh, husbands are a sorry lot.
Oh, poor Dagwood. He never wins.
I should say not with Blondie. He bought her the coat to be nice to her so he could be firm about not letting her buy the hat, and then she got both of them anyway.
Well, it's a very nice hat.
Should we read Prince Valiant?
Yes, please.
Very well, then. Turn to page 4 of the second section. And here we go with Prince Valiant in the days of King Arthur. Hackett, Brackett, Graymalkin, and Quince. Music romantic for a fair, fair prince. Hap Atlas swore on his father's deathbed that he would take and rule the land of Thule, whose ruler is King Agwar, father of Prince Valiant. But when King Hap Atlas attacked the castle of King Agwar, his well-laid plans come to nothing before a seemingly empty castle that defies capture. Now, the army he should have surprised and have defeated in battle is behind him in his own country, raiding his own kingdom. And he decides it's time to make peace. So King Agwar and King Hap Atlas have met to see if they can come to sensible peace terms. And then Alida makes friends with Hap Atlas' queen and leads her into their castle. With great gallantry, Hap Atlas leaves the peace conference and enters the castle in search of his wife. In Alida's apartment, he finds her, trying on gowns. His brave gesture ends in a wave of confusion and embarrassment. The women are very annoyed to find a man marching into their room when they are trying on dresses, and even the most patient and dutiful of queens can lose her temper. The first picture next row, Hap Atlas gets a good scolding from his wife, and she ends by saying, I'm staying here until you settle your old war, and have my baby sent in to me. Already he has the sniffles from sleeping in a drafty tent. As he backs away, Alita tells him that he can't take this fortress, that the warriors of Thule are behind him, and that he'll have to pay for every bit of damage his nonsense has caused, and that he'll keep his army here until King Agwar's men have returned to their homes, and that there's to be no more fighting. And then she orders him to tell King Agwar that dinner will be served in an hour. Hap Atlas strode into the castle a warrior king. He comes out like a small boy caught in some mischief. First picture, bottom row. As he drops to his camp stool very sadly, King Agwar smiles, knowing that Hap Atlas must have had a good scolding from Alita. And he says sympathetically, I know just how you feel. She's been running my kingdom ever since she came here. And then he takes him by the arm, last picture, and says, but come, sir. We must not keep dinner waiting. Even kings can get a scolding, as you now know.
Well, he deserved a good scolding, and he'd better listen to Alita if he doesn't want to get into more trouble.
Now, he'd better, and if he listens to her, maybe there'll be peace and quiet in the kingdom, and there'll be no more killing.
Well, I hope so.
Well, that's all the time I have, but I'll be sure to see you next week at the same time.
Well, I will be here.
Good. Now, before I go, here's that nice man with something interesting to say. Well, honey, and all you boys and girls, I've got to go now.
All right, Mr. Comic Weekly Man, but I'll be waiting for you next week.
Okay, that's a date, and a date with all you boys and girls. Be sure to meet me with our little friend, Miss Honey, next week when I read Puck the Comic Weekly. For I'm the Comic Weekly Man, the jolly Comic Weekly Man. I'll be back to read the funnies to you happy boys and honeys. Don't forget, boys and girls, see you all next week. Your friend, the Comic Weekly Man, the jolly Comic Weekly Man.